I came from a little town in West Virginia called Clover Lick. It's near Cass. Cass is the mecca of red spruce. Ties in with all the guitar building. My family settled out there in the 1700s. They're still there. Live on a national bicentennial farm. Really beautiful back in the mountains. It's a county called Pocahontas County. It's very high average elevation. Ski resort called Snowshoe there. We hunt spruce in the Snowshoe property resort area. It's a lot of fun. Minimum size for dreadnought guitars. And as I go around here, that's plenty big for dreadnought guitars where the grain's nice in it. Even out in here, I think it's fine.
You thinking that was the part on the ground?
I'm hoping. I have been an extremist on things that I do. I wanted to learn to fly one time, so I built an airplane. I wanted the best guitar that I could ever have to play, and that's where the story starts. It wasn't a matter of going out and buying a guitar. It was, the guitars that's the best that I want to play, there's no way I could ever afford. So one day I'm in a store called Rocking R Hardware, and I bought some sandpaper. And I'm walking out the checkout line, and I look down and I see not this CD, but a cassette tape. And this fella sitting on an old car playing a guitar, and I notice it's an old slope shoulder 12 fret guitar. And I'm like, now there's a guitar that somebody has that guitar they can really play. I bought the cassette. It was in my cassette player for almost a year before I ever changed it out. But it was the greatest playing I think I've ever heard. The cleanest, best guitar playing. Different style, and I thought, why have I not heard of this guy in my life? Just the greatest guitar playing I've ever heard. Never heard of him. And I've played guitar, as you've seen the picture over there, since I was 7 or 8 years old. So the next day, I'm down here in the shop, and I'm already building guitars. My wife walks in and hands me a book, and it's called Clapton's Guitar, Watching Wayne Henderson Build the Perfect Instrument. And within less than 24 hours, and after I've played guitar for 30 years, this pops up. This guy with this beautiful guitar and him playing. And reading the story, I sat down and read it immediately, nonstop. Then I thought, well, gotta meet this guy. So that was my quest for the best guitar, and it was absolutely a great coincidence, because there's no doubt that this fellow builds the best guitars in the world. There's no doubt to me. I've played a lot of them. They're all 1930s Martin braced, ring like a bell, red spruce guitars. I called him up on the phone, drove an extra hour and a half to Rugby, and that was the end of that story. Just happened to have a couple pieces of red spruce in my car, and I use red spruce. I know it was used on the best Martins. I know that. I know it takes a big tree. I also grew up looking at them every day. It's not, to me, this is not the chunk of gold it is to a lot of people. And so I knew where there were some spruce trees, and I bought some to build my guitars. And when I showed up at Wayne's, he just was really surprised to see that quality of wood and all, and he wanted some of it. So I think I was at his house the next 7 weekends, and it's about a 4-hour drive to Rugby. And we work all night, and he taught me how to build these guitars, 30 style. And I give him wood, and he teaches me how to play a little guitar and build guitars. And that's to me, I think I was telling someone that's better than having one of these Hendersons, although I love them. And I'm not going to look anybody in the eye and tell anybody I wouldn't like to have one, of course. But I've got more important things now. I want to try to make one as good, but it'll never happen. He's good. He understands these guitars to the nth degree, and he's a tremendous guitar player. real tight core growth, and it's tight core when it's like these growing under a canopy. So the sunlight's blocked here where these tight rings are. And somebody logged, opened the sunlight up, and see the wide growth rings? Pretty much the rest of the way. So it'll grow fast under the sun. So then that's one of the reasons we're hunting in a sheltered area. I'll give you a little bit of history about where the red spruce, where it grows. It originated. Some pioneer families like mine had settled this area back there and discovered these untouched forests with a few Indian tribes that were very friendly, that got out of Dodge when it got cold. They never hung around much. They didn't care if somebody come in and took over some land there. They just weren't that, they migrated a lot. So when they started finding some really pristine trees there, they were the hardwood trees. Okay, the red spruce grows in the very highest of elevations, only over 3,500 feet in Pocahontas County. There's some Adirondack or Piceus rubens varieties that grow lower than that. And in the Adirondack Mountains in Pennsylvania, they do. Martin got a lot of their wood from up there. That's why it's typically called Adirondack spruce. It's a red spruce. It was in 1898. They had cut some spruce on top of the mountain, clear at the highest elevation, and they'd float it down the river. And it was just too much to do, and they needed a railroad up there really bad. So a bunch of people started getting together and putting some money and pulling it, and they followed the Greenbrier River up. It's called the Greenbrier River Trail now. It's a really nice, pristine bike trail you can ride. Then they come up and they hit this mountain that pretty much was a long ridge that they would have spent a couple years probably getting a rail around those rock cliffs. So they bought some land off some Sharp families over there, off Sharp family, drilled a big hole through the mountain. It's called Sharp's Tunnel. And there's where I grew up, right at Sharp's Tunnel. So it opened up the railway to get the Cass. Because from our farm, it's going up the Cass. 8 miles up the railroad tracks, you're parked in the lot. So now they got a way to get all this timber out of there. And Cass, West Virginia was a town of 8,000 people in 1902. It was amazing. I got pictures of these old logging towns over there. It's amazing. It's amazing that they were out there in the mountains. And now it's wood lots again. It's incredible. So everybody, once they found a red spruce, they were virgins. There was absolutely thousands and thousands of them. They brought around 1 million board feet a day off the mountain in the heyday of timbering. You can go ride the Cass train now. It takes you right up into the best spruce area best place you could ever imagine to raise it. And what makes the spruce really strong and tough is the weather. And you know, up in Cheat Mountain at 4,800 feet is cold. And the winters are long, and the grow rings are tight, and that makes the spruce really, really, really fine grain instrument wood. It also makes good airplanes, and that was the problem. The government needed so much spruce to build airplanes, to launch them off of carriers. I understand that they built around 10,000 of them out in the desert somewhere and was launching them with rubber bands, everything you can imagine to learn about the flight. The Wright brothers came to the old town of Spruce. They came to Maurer Lumber Company, and today you can go up and look at their order form. They had went up on the mountain and seen some trees, picked out their wood up there, and Maurer cut it for them, brought it down, run it through the mill, and that's what they built their planes from. They had researched a lot of areas for red spruce, and that was the strongest.
Yeah, that's what we was cut back here.
Look at the root ball. We had one of these root balls. Scott always got killed one collapsed one. I think got a new show. It's called 1,000 Ways to Die.
I was there. Oh yeah. The chainsaw was still underneath the root ball running.
Well, this is a young tree, and it has fairly wide grain in for a section of it, which was in the sunlight, really exposed and grew fast. It's not ideal, but it's good. It's good tonewood. It'll work. It'll be just fine. We're always looking for a better one, and this is here close to the truck, so we're going to do a little exploring. I think that's what we'll do. But this tree's 125, 30 years old probably. It's fine. It's fine. We would like to find one a couple hundred years old. But it survived all right. It lasted
Yeah,
fine.
it did all right.
This was, Scott cut this before the snow. So, it's been here a while. And it's nice that it's not cracked a whole lot. So yeah, it'd be good wood. Here's how and why I build the style of guitar that I build. When I set out to find the best sounding guitars, how would you start? Well, you're not going to go to a music shop and pick up guitars and play them and find them nowadays. You're basically going to research. I researched as to what was the most expensive guitars. That was a starting point. What was the most expensive guitars? And I found out from 37 through 40, that area, maybe a little more, a little less, were about the most expensive guitars in the world. And I had to figure out why. Well, the reason why is the people who put them together were master craftsmen. They were German descendants. A lot of them were family, friends of C.F. Martin, who had fled the SS when Hitler came into power in the early 30s. They were on the wrong side of the political fence and they fled the country. And when they did, they landed, a lot of them, up near Nazareth, and since they were relatives, friends of the Martin family, he put them to work in the plant. And most of the Martin family in Germany had been in a clockmaker's guild, violin guild. They were skilled craftsmen. The clocks are mostly made from Brazilian rosewood, all hand carved gears, everything. So when these guys came in the Martin plant, they were experts at shaping wood, putting wood together, and the strength of wood. And one of the things they did back then, when they had some very good wood, good tight grained red spruce, good red spruce tops, is the structure of the guitar. If you can think of this as your floor system in your house, okay? If your floor in the house first had a little bit of a curve, upward, be stronger, right? Everybody's seen bridges, they're a little bit stronger. You take a piece of wood like this and put a weight on it versus this is not going to move as much. Forward shift patterns ended in 1941, and the reason is when we went to war with Germany, the craftsmen in the Martin plant went to war against Germany, helping build the war machine. Basically carving templates for tank tops and of the millions of pieces of metal that needed to be cast to fight Hitler with. So these guys moved from the plant, and unfortunately they never come back. And so this particular pattern, Wayne says you can find it on a few guitars up until about 1944, but for the most part it was gone in 1941. Red spruce is the strongest wood in the world, weight to strength ratio. There's other woods that make good guitars, pretty good guitars. I personally haven't heard anything ring quite like the red spruce. When I do, try it out. But I haven't built anything except red spruce. And as long as the government will allow us to walk and parade through the mountains and find down dead trees, get a permit and cut them, chop them up, throw them on your shoulder and carry them out and build guitars, I'll be happy.